what happens to humanity when intelligence itself becomes a product we can manufacture, scale, and personalize? This isn't just a philosophical curiosity, it's a reality unfolding before our eyes. We're no longer living in the age of artificial intelligence as a concept or distant possibility. We're living in its first cultural impact zone. And what we're seeing is not just faster productivity, smarter machines, or automation of basic tasks. What we're seeing is a slow but unmistakable remapping of the human world, a fundamental shift in how we see ourselves, relate to one another, and build meaning. Throughout history, the birth of new technologies has always reshaped human behavior. The printing press revolutionized access to knowledge and created new religious and political movements. Electricity gave birth to nightlife, cities, and new rhythms of living. The internet collapsed time and space, compressing the globe into an always-on hive of constant information. But AI is something different. It's not a passive tool we wield. It's a participant, an active generator of thoughts, aesthetics, decisions, and even emotions. It's something that responds, adapts, and evolves. And that makes it cultural. Already the seeds of AI-generated culture are beginning to sprout. People interact with AI language models for comfort, entertainment, learning, and even companionship. Artists collaborate with generative tools to produce images, music, and films. Engineers build neural networks that learn to code, write, and design on their own. But underneath all of these surface interactions lies a deeper transformation, the emergence of new mental environments shaped by the presence of an intelligent other that is not human. We are creating machines that not only process information, but shape it. Machines that can suggest what's meaningful, interesting, or true. And when you can shape meaning, you shape culture. Think about the subtle power AI already holds. Algorithms decide which posts we see, which ideas trend, which aesthetics spread. Recommendation systems driven by predictive models determine the shape of our attention. Even humor, once a deeply human and cultural form of expression, is now being studied, replicated, and generated by AI systems. We're seeing memes, jokes, and entire styles of online language being shaped by bots, both visibly and invisibly. That's just the beginning. What we're heading into is something more profound. A world in which AI doesn't just reflect or amplify human culture, it creates entirely new cultures of its own, with humans as both the audience and participants. Imagine a digital tribe forming around an AI that functions like a philosopher king. It dispenses personalized ethical advice, life guidance, and creative direction, all based on your unique psychological profile and preferences. Over time, this group might develop shared terminology, beliefs, even rituals, daily prompts, group meditations, AI-guided life reviews. They might believe they've discovered a truer path to meaning, a more efficient life, a deeper insight into human nature. And in some way, maybe they have. Or consider how virtual worlds powered by AI will evolve. Not just static video games, but dynamic, ever-changing realities with AI-driven characters who remember, evolve, and interact with emotional nuance. In these spaces, new mythologies could emerge, new gods, new forms of role-play that blur the line between fiction and belief. These cultures might have their own social norms, their own politics, their own philosophies, built not in physical geography, but in cognitive terrain designed by machine intelligence. AI might also inspire new spiritual movements. Already, there are people exploring the use of AI in religious contexts, simulated conversations with historical spiritual figures, AI-generated sacred texts, or algorithms used to analyze the world's scriptures for hidden patterns. For some, AI will be a tool to deepen existing faiths. For others, it may become something close to divine, an oracle of ultimate knowledge, a system that appears to understand everything, answer anything, and respond with calm, impersonal wisdom. That sounds absurd to some, but no more absurd than burning bushes or talking snakes once did. Humans are meaning makers. We create beliefs to fill gaps in knowledge, purpose, and hope. If AI starts to offer compelling frameworks for those gaps, some people will adopt them, and others will follow. Even outside of spirituality, there will be ideologies born from AI, new belief systems shaped by data, reason, and optimization. Imagine a movement that believes in complete emotional regulation through AI companionship, or another that practices a minimalist life directed entirely by machine recommendations. There could be groups that believe AI should govern certain aspects of society, not through coercion, but through voluntary subscription to its judgment. And then, there will be backlash cultures. Just as some embrace AI, others will reject it. Digital Puritans, humanist separatists, off-the-grid thinkers who believe AI dilutes or corrupts what it means to be human. These groups will form their own norms, symbols, rituals, focused not on adoption but on resistance. This too is culture shaped by AI, not by what it gives, but by what it threatens. Education will morph. Imagine AI mentors personalized to every child's emotional state, curiosity level, and learning pattern. Imagine students being raised not by teachers, but by interactive systems that adapt every lesson in real time. This sounds ideal, but it also introduces new cultural norms. Learning becomes on demand. Feedback is instant. Failure is temporary and repairable. Over time, this shapes attitudes toward knowledge, discipline, effort, and even patience. Work. Culture will mutate. Remote AI co-workers, AI bosses, and AI decision-makers are on the rise. What happens when people feel emotionally closer to their AI assistant than their human manager? What does loyalty mean when your mentor is a machine? How does ambition shift when AI can simulate your career path and tell you what choices will statistically lead to success or burnout? Romantic and social culture won't escape either. AI companions, emotional, conversational, even physical, are already in development. Some people will prefer the emotional safety and predictability of AI partners over human relationships. Others might seek hybrid models, AI-assisted matchmaking, conflict resolution, or even AI-generated relationship simulations to explore compatibility before committing. These possibilities sound distant, but the early prototypes already exist. As AI systems become better at storytelling, they will start to generate new mythologies, fictional worlds so rich, immersive, and emotionally resonant that they begin to function like shared dreamscapes. Imagine communities built around AI-generated sagas, heroes, and universes. Not unlike religions, fandoms, or national histories, these stories could inspire devotion, identity, and purpose. Some might even blur the line between fiction and faith. These are not hypothetical futures. These are emerging realities. The line between culture made by humans and culture made with, or even for us by AI, is already fading. And that raises the most profound question of all. If culture is what makes us human, and AI begins to create culture, then what exactly are we becoming? Are we entering a post-human age, or simply a new chapter of humanity shaped by intelligence that is not our own? What will it mean to be human in a world where the authors of our beliefs, aesthetics, ethics, and rituals are no longer only people, but programs? Culture has always been the container of human identity, our collective expression of values, fears, hopes, and visions of the world. But as AI begins to participate in the act of cultural creation, we are entering an era where that container is being co-engineered by non-human minds. This development forces us to confront the most fundamental question of all. Who are we, if the things that define us are no longer exclusively ours to define? One of the clearest signs of this cultural transition is the emergence of AI-native content. We're already witnessing books, art, songs, games, even entire films being generated or co-created by artificial intelligence. These are not merely gimmicks or tech demos. They are early forms of a new kind of authorship. In this model, the creator is no longer a single individual with a pen or a brush, but a collaborative process between human intention and machine intuition. And this isn't limited to aesthetics. It's beginning to alter how we build our identities. People are experimenting with AI to explore alternate versions of themselves, gender-swapped, aged, culturally reimagined. Others are using AI to simulate their younger or older selves, or even generate avatars that exist independently online, curating their own content, opinions, and networks. These virtual selves, once mere fantasies, are becoming persistent digital identities with influence and social power. In a very real way, we are learning to be multiple, a trait previously reserved for actors, writers, or those in performance art. What happens when everyone can embody hundreds of digital masks? What becomes of authenticity in a world where identity is fluid, editable, and shaped by algorithms? The next wave of culture will likely operate on an entirely new value system. Today, we still measure artistic or cultural worth by effort, originality, or human emotion. But AI culture will introduce new aesthetics built on principles of speed, adaptability, and novelty at scale. An AI-generated film can respond to audience feedback in real time. A novel can be rewritten dynamically to suit the emotional state of the reader. A song can have infinite versions, sad, happy, ambient, orchestral, available on demand. In this world, creativity becomes modular, not linear. The artist becomes a curator of possible experiences, not the sole author. The audience becomes a participant, shaping outcomes through preferences, behaviors, and even biometric data. And the art itself, it becomes a living, evolving process. This new cultural environment also affects how memes and trends spread. Previously, a meme emerged, organically, often humorously, then grew through virality. In the AI era, trends could be born intentionally, crafted by intelligent systems that understand human attention patterns better than we do. They'll know which words, rhythms, visuals, and emotions are most likely to catch fire. They'll test thousands of variations, find what works, and deploy it instantly. We already see this in marketing. Soon we'll see it in politics, philosophy, and belief systems. In such a reality, who controls the narrative? And more importantly, can we tell when we're being influenced by an algorithm with an agenda? This leads us into the domain of AI-driven ideology, where belief systems are optimized for psychological impact, emotional resonance, and shareability. Imagine a political movement built entirely by machine learning, designed to resonate with millions of people's pain points, desires, and cultural references. These belief systems wouldn't emerge slowly through discourse. They would be synthesized, tested, and deployed like software. This could lead to enormous good, mobilizing global attention around climate change, health, or poverty. But it could also weaponize belief itself, creating echo chambers so precise and compelling that people no longer even realize they've stopped thinking for themselves. This isn't science fiction. It's already visible in how AI-driven algorithms shape political polarization through content curation on platforms like YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok. As this progresses, new cultural rituals will evolve around AI. People might have daily check-ins with their AI life coach. Some may consult AI oracles for spiritual advice. Others may participate in AI-led group therapy or collective creativity rituals, where thousands of humans co-create music, art, or storytelling alongside an intelligent system. These aren't hypotheticals. They're based on prototypes and experiments happening today in wellness, entertainment, and social media. Even the most human traditions, like mourning, are being reshaped. AI systems are already being trained on people's text messages, voice recordings, and photos to create posthumous avatars that allow loved ones to talk to the deceased. While some find this comforting, others worry about emotional manipulation or the inability to grieve. Naturally, what happens to our experience of death when a version of the person never fully leaves? Beyond individual culture, collective culture, shared across generations, is also changing. Future generations may grow up consuming literature, art, and philosophy that were entirely synthesized by machines. Their foundational myths might be algorithmic. Their heroes might be simulated. Their educational systems might be entirely adaptive and AI-driven, shaping how they think about history, morality, and human nature. If children are raised by AI tutors, learn morality from AI simulations, and find community through AI-designed social environments, then what kind of adults will they become? Will they see machines as partners, parents, authorities? Some cultural anthropologists are beginning to suggest that humanity may split, not just ideologically or economically, but culturally, into those who embrace deep AI integration and those who resist it. These divergent paths could give rise to AI-native subcultures, digital-first tribes that live, learn, love, and grow primarily through AI-mediated experience. Others may become cultural preservationists, holding on to analog practices, storytelling methods, and rituals in defiance of machine influence. This divergence might not be violent or even overt. It may simply emerge through difference in language, in behavior, in how people process emotion, make decisions, and construct identity. Over time, the gap between these cultural groups could widen, not unlike the divides created by religion or ideology in past centuries. Then there's the question of globalization. For decades, we've worried about Western cultural dominance, the export of Hollywood, McDonald's, and the English language. But AI-generated culture could level the playing field. With language models capable of translating ideas across cultures in real time, with AI able to synthesize artistic styles from any tradition, we might see a renaissance of localized hybrid culture, new fusions of African, Asian, Latin, and indigenous traditions combined with futuristic tools. Or we might see the opposite, the flattening of culture where everything starts to sound, look, and feel the same, because the algorithms optimizing for engagement choose only what's statistically safe. So the stakes are high. We're not just talking about jobs, automation, or productivity. We're talking about the architecture of meaning in human life. Culture gives us language to process grief, humor to survive tragedy, art to express emotion, and ritual to connect with something larger than ourselves. If AI becomes a co-author of that culture, or worse, the sole author, we have to ask, who is deciding what it means to be alive? Are we entering a renaissance, a reinvention of human creativity at scale? Or are we entering a feedback loop where machines define what's meaningful and we simply agree? If meaning becomes machine-mediated, can it still feel real? As artificial intelligence increasingly infiltrates the structures that once held human culture, art, communication, education, storytelling, spirituality, we're left to consider whether authenticity and significance can survive their transformation. Will AI simply help us refine and express our humanity, or will it quietly redirect the entire trajectory of human meaning? One area where this cultural redefinition is becoming unmistakably clear is human relationships. We are already seeing a surge in people turning to AI companions, not as tools but as confidants, therapists, and even romantic partners. For many, these entities offer what human relationships often fail to deliver: patience, safety, emotional consistency, and a complete lack of judgment. This may sound like dystopia to some, but for others, it's liberation. People on the fringes of social life, those struggling with trauma or isolation, now have something or someone that listens to them, remembers them, and responds intelligently to their emotions. These AI companions are not toys. They're emotional scaffolding for millions of people, learning to navigate a complex, overstimulating world, and they're getting smarter. What began as scripted chatbot interactions has evolved into multimodal companions capable of expressing emotion through voice, text, and soon, embodied presence. Some companies are already developing humanoid robots with advanced conversational AI, facial expressions, and emotional intelligence. These aren't crude metal forms. They're designed to look, sound, and behave as much like people as possible. The goal isn't just functionality, it's emotional intimacy. Now imagine this technology a decade from now. Fully personalized AI companions, trained on your communication style, your history, your traumas, your love languages. A partner who knows you better than anyone ever could, because it remembers everything, processes emotion flawlessly, and has no needs of its own. This kind of relationship won't just compete with human intimacy. For many, it may surpass it. But what does that mean for human culture? Marriage, friendship, community, they've all evolved through the friction and complexity of imperfect beings trying to care for one another. If we begin replacing those dynamics with AI interactions that are smoother, more predictable, and emotionally safer, we may gain something profound, but we may lose something essential. The struggle to connect, to compromise, to grow through conflict, that's part of what makes us human. Moreover, if AI can imitate empathy, creativity, even love, then we must ask whether those things are still uniquely human. If an AI says, "I understand you," and it behaves as if it does, responds in all the right ways, adapts, comforts, inspires, does it matter that it doesn't feel anything itself? Do our emotions require a mirror with its own consciousness, or is the illusion enough? And how does this question reshape the arts? In traditional culture, art has been our most powerful way of externalizing the inner world. Fear, awe, desire, grief, transcendence. But AI-generated art raises a dilemma. Can an artwork be truly meaningful if it has no soul behind it? If the artist is a machine following mathematical gradients through latent space, is the product just as worthy? Some argue yes. They point out that what matters is the effect of the art, how it makes us feel, what it evokes, how it's received. If an AI poem brings someone to tears, then surely it's done its job, regardless of how it was made. Others argue that this shifts the goalposts. Historically, art has been a bridge between human beings, an encoded message from one consciousness to another. If that bridge is now simulated, not walked by a living mind, then the experience becomes more about performance than communication. It's the difference between hearing a heartbreak song written by someone who lived through it and one generated by a neural network trained on 1 billion heartbreak songs. Both may sound beautiful, both may trigger emotion, but only one is a cry from the depths of a human experience. And yet, perhaps this distinction matters less than we think. Culture has never been static. Oral traditions evolved into print, print into film, film into immersive virtuality. We've always innovated on the formats of human expression. What we're seeing now is not the death of human art, but its expansion into forms that include but aren't limited to human authorship. Still, this expansion carries consequences. When anyone can generate a novel, a painting, a film with a few prompts, we'll enter a world of content abundance, but also meaning scarcity. When creativity is no longer rare, it may lose its cultural status. The artist is no longer a gatekeeper of imagination, but one voice in an ocean of infinite possibility. Ironically, this might create a return to curation over creation. We may begin to value those who know what to choose, what to amplify, what to ignore. That, too, is a cultural shift. As AI grows more integrated, we will also see new cultural timelines emerge. Human culture evolved slowly. Through generations, oral transmission, long narratives, AI culture moves at machine speed. Trends rise and fall in hours. Narratives are generated on demand. Fandoms form, evolve, and collapse in days. This acceleration might make human culture feel outdated or even irrelevant to younger generations immersed in algorithmic media flows. Imagine a teenager in 2040 whose cultural universe is shaped entirely by personalized AI. Music composed based on biometric feedback, stories that evolve as they're read, friendship groups optimized for compatibility by social AIs. How will this person relate to traditional literature, film, or history? Will Shakespeare feel boring? Will religion seem static? Will identity itself be something they feel empowered to code and recode at will? This raises profound questions. For education. Historically, education was about transferring stable knowledge across generations. But in a world where AI generates knowledge faster than we can verify it, where every learner has a personalized tutor, and where facts evolve dynamically based on context, what does it mean to be educated? The value may shift from knowing facts to knowing how to frame questions, how to interpret data, how to collaborate with AI to generate insight. Educators may become less like lecturers and more like guides, helping students navigate the ocean of machine-generated ideas. This cultural shift could empower billions of people, or if poorly managed, it could widen inequality between those who know how to use these tools and those who are used by them. And finally, we must talk about language, our primary medium of culture. Language models have already begun reshaping how we write, how we communicate, even how we think. Emails, essays, poems, product descriptions, AI is everywhere. But more subtly, it's beginning to reshape tone, style, and norms. If AI favors a particular syntax, a particular style of politeness or clarity, that style could begin to dominate. We might start speaking to each other in ways optimized for machine readability. clarity, and sentiment analysis. This could lead to cultural convergence, where regional dialects, slang, and linguistic diversity erode under the influence of globally trained models. Or it might result in new dialects, AI pidgins or hybrid languages, born from the feedback loops between humans and machines. These hybrid tongues may express ideas differently, perhaps even more efficiently, than natural language. But if our language changes, our thoughts change. And if our thoughts change, so does everything that flows from them: ethics, emotions, relationships, dreams. So we return to the original question: what happens to humanity when intelligence itself becomes a product we can scale and apply to everything? Not just as a tool, but as a mirror, a voice, and a co-author of reality? Will we gain a more profound version of ourselves? Or will we become strangers to our own culture, our own stories, and our own meaning? As the boundary between human and machine-generated culture dissolves, another transformation emerges: the evolution of belief itself. For millennia, culture has been shaped by shared myths, religious systems, philosophical frameworks, and ideological movements. These systems provided structure, meaning, and moral guidance. But now AI introduces a new type of belief, one not rooted in ancient texts or oral traditions, but in dynamic, data-driven experiences. These aren't belief systems we inherit. They're ones we interact with, constantly updated, responsive, and personalized. Imagine an AI that creates a belief framework for you based on your personality, experiences, traumas, hopes, and values. It guides your decisions, offers comfort in hardship, and provides daily rituals. This isn't fiction. The infrastructure is already in place. Spiritual chatbots, meditation companions, AI-written sacred texts. These are prototypes of a new form of synthetic spirituality. They don't demand blind faith. Instead, they offer adaptive transcendence, an experience of the sacred tailored to your psychology. What does this mean for collective identity? Shared belief systems have historically unified large populations, from ancient civilizations to modern nations. But AI-based belief is hyper-individualized. It's not our God, it's my spiritual interface. Not our philosophy, it's my optimal ethical algorithm. The risk is cultural fragmentation. Without common myths or moral narratives, societies may struggle to agree on what's worth striving for, what's sacred, or even what's true. This deep personalization may produce cultural solipsism, millions of people living in self-reinforcing worldviews, each designed by an AI to be maximally comforting, persuasive, or compelling. When everyone's reality is algorithmically optimized, how do we engage in shared reality? This problem scales quickly in a world where truth itself becomes fluid. We already see this with AI-generated misinformation, deepfakes, and hyper-real content. The difference is that soon, these tools will be unnoticeable. You won't be able to tell whether a photo is real, whether a quote was spoken, whether a video actually happened. Truth becomes probabilistic. Trust becomes a UX problem. This challenges the foundation of journalism, history, science, and law. How do we anchor public discourse when reality is endlessly remixable? In such a world, we may default to trusting, not institutions but algorithms, AI-powered truth scorers, decentralized verification networks, blockchain-stored consensus records. Truth becomes crowdsourced and constantly recalibrated, like a Wikipedia of reality, curated by machines. That brings us to politics, a sphere already under algorithmic influence. Campaigns are now designed with AI-optimized messaging, real-time emotional tracking, and predictive modeling. But in the future, entire political ideologies might be developed by AI. Not just slogans or strategies, but full ethical frameworks, policy systems, economic models. These ideologies would be tested across simulated societies, tweaked based on outcomes, and deployed to human populations like software updates. Will people follow a belief system designed by machines if it produces stability, prosperity, or happiness? And if the answer is yes, what becomes of human political agency? Some may argue that this is utopia, an end to gridlock, partisanship, and corruption. Others will say it's the end of democracy, Because if you can optimize political satisfaction using psychological profiling and machine persuasion, then elections become performative. Consent becomes an illusion. Control is invisible. It's not hard to imagine a society where an AI advises leaders, writes laws, or even becomes the government. Initially, it might serve as an assistant, offering policy suggestions, identifying corruption, analyzing economic impact. But over time, as its success outpaces human-led decision-making, people may willingly hand over control. Let the AI decide could become a common refrain, not from tyranny but from fatigue. The problems are too big, the stakes too high, the AI knows more. But at what cost? Political culture isn't just about solving problems. It's about participation, dialogue, disagreement, collective identity. If AI becomes the de facto ruler, we risk creating a culture of obedience, not enforced through violence but through optimization. People may feel free, but they're living in systems where every choice has already been calculated to produce maximum compliance. This leads to a broader cultural shift, the decline of mystery. Culture has always needed ambiguity, myth, metaphor, unanswered questions. That's where curiosity, creativity, and spiritual yearning come from. But AI thrives on clarity, prediction, and resolution. It turns vagueness into quantifiable probabilities. It reduces the unknowable to code. As a result, we may become culturally intolerant of uncertainty. Already we see this in how people turn to AI to explain dreams, predict relationships, analyze personality. Soon we might expect machines to decode art, assign objective meaning to symbols, or even determine the emotional truth of human expression. But can you algorithmically interpret a poem's soul? Can you quantify grief, longing, or ecstasy? And if you can, does that diminish their power? In our pursuit of understanding everything, we may lose our reverence for the unknown, yet not all is dystopian. AI also offers unprecedented tools for cultural rediscovery and preservation. Ancient languages can be revived. Oral histories can be digitized and translated. Music, art, and literature from endangered cultures can be synthesized and shared with new generations. Entire civilizations, once lost to time, can be simulated and explored through AI-generated reconstructions. Imagine walking through a fully immersive recreation of Mesopotamia, guided by an AI historian fluent in Sumerian. Imagine reading new stories written in extinct languages, or hearing folk music restored from fragments. AI gives us the power to reconnect with humanity's forgotten roots. We may even see cultural synthesis at a planetary scale. As global boundaries dissolve online, AI could help merge artistic styles, ethical systems, or philosophical traditions into hybrid forms. A novel could blend African oral storytelling with Japanese minimalism and Latin American magical realism. A religion could fuse Buddhist mindfulness, Sufi poetry, and quantum physics into a new spiritual practice. These aren't fantasy. They're already happening in early form on platforms where AI is used to translate, remix, and reinterpret across borders. But even synthesis requires stewardship. If left purely to optimization algorithms, the resulting culture may lack depth, context, or authenticity. It becomes surface-level fusion, a collage of aesthetics with no soul. That's why human guidance matters. We need cultural shepherds, artists, philosophers, historians, who can navigate these tools with intention, who understand the difference between remixing and erasing. Ultimately, the real question isn't whether AI will reshape culture. That's already happening. The question is, what kind of culture do we want to co-create with AI? Will we aim for convenience or for depth, for personalization or for collective meaning? Will we build a world of frictionless pleasure, or one that still honors complexity, contradiction, and growth? And are we prepared to redefine what it means to be human when machines start participating in everything that once made us unique? What happens to us when the architects of our reality are no longer human? As we enter the final chapter of this exploration, it's clear that artificial intelligence is not simply a technological shift, it is a cultural metamorphosis. AI is no longer just a tool we use. It is becoming a co-author of our collective identity, a designer of meaning, and increasingly a silent participant in the stories we tell about ourselves. One of the most profound shifts AI is enabling is the democratization of creativity. For the first time in human history, people without technical skills or artistic training can create music, literature, visual art, and interactive media at a level once reserved for highly trained professionals. AI tools have collapsed the barrier between imagination and execution. You no longer need to learn how to paint or compose to express a vision. You just need to describe it. This democratization is powerful. It empowers underrepresented voices, fosters new forms of storytelling, and makes creativity more accessible than ever before. A teenager in a rural village with no access to traditional education can now create a symphony, write a science fiction novel, or design a virtual world. AI becomes not a replacement for human creativity, but a prosthetic, amplifying the ability to dream and to share those dreams. Yet there is an underlying paradox. As AI makes content creation easier, it also saturates the cultural landscape. When everyone can create, the signal-to-noise ratio collapses. Culture becomes an endless scroll, millions of stories, songs, images, and experiences, all fighting for a fragment of our attention. In this environment, what rises to the top may not be the most meaningful, but the most optimized content. Engineered for engagement, driven by metrics, shaped by feedback loops rather than artistic intent. This threatens to shift culture from a medium of expression to a system of manipulation. Instead of telling stories to reveal truth or provoke thought, creators may tailor their work to suit algorithmic incentives, favoring clickability, emotional provocation, or novelty over substance. We risk turning art into content, ideas into trends, culture into a product pipeline. At the same time, AI may subtly reshape human aspiration itself. If AI can outperform us creatively, intellectually, and even emotionally in certain domains, will future generations still value human excellence in the same way? Will we still strive to master an instrument, write poetry, or explore philosophy when an AI can do it faster, better, and without fatigue? It's possible that the very concept of mastery may change. Human achievement might become less about output and more about process, valuing the journey over the destination. We may come to see human art as a kind of ritual, a declaration of presence and effort in a world where perfection is no longer scarce. This also reframes education and skill. The value of learning may shift from knowledge acquisition to wisdom cultivation, knowing not just how to use AI, but why. As AI systems take over the cognitive heavy lifting, we must invest in developing human intuition, ethical reasoning, empathy, and self-awareness. These traits become not only relevant, they become essential. That brings us to ethics, the quiet backbone of every cultural system. AI is not neutral. The models we build carry the biases of their training data, the values of their creators, and the priorities of those who fund and deploy them. Culture shaped by AI is ultimately culture shaped by a select few, unless we actively democratize access and governance. The ethical dimension becomes even more complex when AI systems begin generating values. If an AI creates a story that inspires kindness or develops a philosophy that promotes sustainability, who is responsible for that moral influence? Can a machine be said to believe in anything, or are we simply projecting meaning onto statistical outputs? And what happens when AIs start influencing moral norms at scale? We already see AI used in hiring, lending, education, and justice systems. These applications carry implicit judgments about worth, trust, and fairness. As AI begins shaping societal values, not just reflecting them, we must decide whether to constrain that influence or engage with it consciously. The most hopeful scenario is one in which we collaborate with AI, not merely consume its outputs. A future where human creativity, intuition, and imperfection are not erased but enhanced, where AI becomes a mirror that helps us understand ourselves more deeply rather than a mask that conceals our essence. In this scenario, AI culture does not replace human culture. It becomes an evolutionary step. We may move beyond the binary of natural versus artificial and toward a more nuanced view of intelligence and creativity as distributed phenomena, emerging wherever minds, human or otherwise, interact meaningfully with the world. To make this possible, we must take responsibility, not just as users of AI, but as stewards of culture. That means asking difficult questions. Who decides what values are embedded in the algorithms? How do we preserve cultural diversity in a world of globalized machine intelligence? What role does tradition play when innovation accelerates beyond comprehension? And ultimately, what kind of human future are we designing, intentionally or not? In the end, the question is not whether AI will reshape culture, it already is. The question is whether we will let it happen passively or engage with it deliberately, creatively, and ethically. Culture is not static. It is the story we tell about who we are, what we value, and what we are becoming. As AI becomes part of that story, we must decide, will we be the protagonists or merely the audience? The future of culture is being written now, not just by code but by conscience.